It's Saturday morning, the 9th day of September 2017, and this is Calvin Castine, and we're right where you'd expect hometown cable to be, right in front of the City Hall steps as we get ready for the 2017 version of the Battle of Plattsburgh Commemoration Parade. We've covered every one of these since its inception. In fact, we started covering the Battle of Plattsburgh before they had a parade, so we've been doing it now for over 20 years. Our first coverage of the Battle of Plattsburgh started in 1997, and we've continued in the ceremonies, of course, peaked in 2014, but they're still going strong, very strong here in and around the city of Plattsburgh, and we're very pleased to be here. However, we're going to be down a little closer to the street level this year, and hopefully this a lot of signages, a lot of signs here in front of the City Hall. Hopefully that sign won't be blocking too much of our view, because they put up this lovely little tent this year with the, you got a band under there, and they've got all kinds of stuff, and normally we get right down there in that corner and have a fairly decent view, but this year things are different. Look at all the signage up there. They've gone commercial and buy a part of the Battle of Plattsburgh, I guess. The only way you can keep these things going is if you have the finances to do it, so that sometimes necessitates going out and finding advertisers who are willing to help you out, and it looks like they've got a few. So hopefully we'll be able to hear the PA system, and hopefully we'll be able to get a view as they come over the area where the former Smithweed Bridge used to be many years ago. And hopefully it won't rain. It's been raining off and on this Saturday. I was briefly at the Shazy Youth Attorney Soccer Tournament and drizzled a little bit there. The Granny Cam is there. My wife Judy covering a whole lot of events going on at that annual event. They always seem to coincide or conflict with the Battle of Plattsburgh events. So the folks in Shazy look at the Battle of Plattsburgh a couple days ahead of us there as the troops march through, and when it's time for the weekend, they're ready to play soccer, as you might expect, in and around Plattsburgh, around Shazy. A good crowd gathering, and everybody's in a cheerful mood. The rain clouds hold off, and of course I can't let this recording happen without mentioning the events that are going on. We just finished Hurricane Harvey in the Texas area, record-breaking devastation down in Texas, and we're just getting into the start of and finding out what Hurricane Irma is going to do to folks in Florida, and who knows, Irene, also an I storm, a letter I storm, came through and caused a lot of havoc up here 6 years ago in 2011. So Irma, who knows if that storm might follow up and bring us some problems before it's all said and done. And right behind Irma is another one called Jose, and there's another one, a couple others brewing up too. So at this point in time, we're unsure what the long-range weather forecast holds. Earthquake in Mexico area, so a lot of events, a lot of things happening in and around the North American continent as things are about to take place here. And of course, for the people who don't know what the Battle of Plattsburgh is, back in 1814, some of us may remember the song "The Battle of New Orleans" in 1814. The Battle of New Orleans. Well, the Battle of New Orleans took place pretty much after the war had ended, but some of the troops didn't know that, so they were still causing havoc down in the southern part of our country. But in the northern part of our country, the British invaded. They came through Champlain, about 14,000 troops strong, the British troops and their allies. They camped in and around the area of Dewey Tavern, which is located just across the road from Northeastern Clinton Central School. So the current Northeastern Clinton Central School grounds, there were British troops camped there, and across the road from there and all around that area into the village of Champlain. So they came down, and about August 28th when the first scouts arrived in the area, and the troops slowly gathered and grew. And in the early part of September, they started their march toward Plattsburgh. They went through Chazy. They stationed some people there. Very well recorded that the law offices of Julius Caesar Hubbard, and they had some events that took place there. They marched through Beacontown. There was the Battle of Culver Hill. And they marched into Plattsburgh. There was a battle at Halsey's Corners and a few other areas. But the main thing that happened was the battle on Lake Champlain. That's when the British forces were defeated under Commodore MacDonough. And of course, we are here right across the way from the MacDonough Monument here in Plattsburgh. And that bird still hasn't flown away yet, so we know that's what's happening when that bird does leave. But the battle on Lake Champlain took place on September 11th, 2014. The British were defeated by Commodore MacDonough's troops, and even though the land forces were fairly successful here, when they knew that the British fleet had been defeated, they knew that any land conquest would be a moot point, so they headed back north. And they headed back and they camped once again. Many of them, not all of them, most of them kept on going north, but some of them hung around Dewey Tavern, and they nursed their wounded. Those who died at that location were buried at the Dewey Family Cemetery, which is now part of the Bob Venn Park, the Champlain Community Park, which is located again across from Northeastern Clinton, and the town owns that park land. So that they were buried there, and the final troops left Champlain on September 25th. So that all happened back in 2014. So this parade has been going for a couple of decades now, almost a couple of decades, and it's certainly one of the highlights of the year in and around the Plattsburgh area. So stay tuned. We're going to have the Battle of Plattsburgh annual parade here in beautiful downtown Plattsburgh.
As well, Jared Corconier. Let me also introduce Jonathan and Natalie Lewis. Jonathan is a submariner, Lieutenant Commander for the Royal Navy.
The mayor is introducing a lot of folks up on the podium, but this is our view of the podium.
People from the General Society of the War of 1812,
folks who are putting this parade on, who are setting up the reviewing stand. Keep Hometown Cable in mind in the future if you want this stuff recorded, because
the daughters of the War of 1812, and I'm turn it over to begin the parade with John Kruger. Thank you all for coming
John
today.
Kruger is going to be the master of ceremonies, apparently. Keep Hometown Cable in mind if you want this stuff recorded, because we can't see, and we've got to be where we can see the parade, and we obviously can't see it behind this curtain right here, so we can't get the people at the podium if we're blocked out. Let's listen to Mr. John Kruger.
I know that a lot of you are aware of this, but for those of you that aren't from this area, where you are today was French for 154 years, from 1609 until 1763. I point that out simply because we're not going to hear an awful lot about the French during the parade, but they're the ones that were first in this area in North America. Before the parade gets underway, we'd like to recognize the contributions of some important individuals, organizations, and businesses. First of all, the woodmen of the world lodged 1016 for their generous donation of American flags. The Government of Canada and its representative, Mr. Ernie Pressow, for supporting today's parade. For more than a decade, Ernie has generously provided maple leaf flags and stick pins for our commemoration. While we have a little unanticipated space in the program, ladies and gentlemen, I remind you that there's a barbecue today at the Elks Club. Chicken and I believe ribs, I think it's $8. I'm not sure on that, but I am certain there is a barbecue at the Elks Club.
Again, the temperature is about 60 degrees right now and overcast. We've had a few showers earlier today.
Also give you a strong view of where the Battle of Plattsburgh took place.
It's a decent crowd here, but usually it's probably almost double this size. But I think a lot of folks, because of the cooler temperatures and the fact that it might get rained on, have hesitated to come down here. But they also have the whole parade route that starts up there beyond the Elks Lodge and moves on past here and goes to Bridge Street. Before we put the camera on, we had a nice little chat with Ducky Drake, the former radio personality from a local radio station, and he's enjoying his retirement.
So we may have started a bit prematurely.
So he's enjoying his retirement and looking fine and dandy over there, getting ready to watch the parade. We invited him to come over and share the microphone, but he declined. He said if he had anything important to say, he'd come running over. So maybe before the parade is over, he'll come running in our direction. But but don't hold your breath. But it's nice to see Ducky. We see him roaming the street once in a while as we're in town here. Looks like he gets a walk in just about every day.
This is the quietest Battle of Plattsburgh commemoration parade I can remember.
All right, it is quiet here, isn't it, John? John Kruger, the city historian, and a fine addition to the North Country when he moved here about a decade and a half ago.
On the crest of the hill, ladies and gentlemen, I think it really is going to start now.
You can see the light blinking through the trees, and I can't go too far here without mentioning Gordy Little, who was by our side for almost all the parades that we covered, and of course passed away last year in 2016. Tragic, unfortunate accident on June 22nd of last year. Most folks in the North Country are very familiar with Gordy, and they all miss him, and of course our thoughts are with him and his family as we cover events like this that he always looked forward to. The city police is leading off the parade. For the most part, we'll probably be listening to Mr. Kruger. There's probably not much more we're going to have to add, because knowing John Kruger, he's going to be very thorough as far as his description of what we're looking at.
Making sure there's absolutely no speeding in this parade. Leading off is the Plattsburgh City Police. Thank you for all of your assistance with the events this weekend.
And you notice no siren. More and more parades are catching on, siren free. They save those sirens for the emergencies. So we'd like to point out during these parades that many times we've seen real emergencies occur, and people are so used to hearing the siren they didn't give way to the emergency vehicles that were responding to the emergency.
We also want to thank for keeping the city safe.
So keep the sirens, blow the horn, flash the lights, or keep the sirens for actual emergencies. There's the City of Plattsburgh Police, followed by the City of Plattsburgh Fire Department.
Following the fire truck is the Battle of Plattsburgh banner, carried by Katie and her mother from ARC. They're perhaps one of the most important parts of this parade. The parade is made possible by our many sponsors, and by you, the public, buying a button. Look to the person sitting to your left. See if they have a button on. Now look to the person sitting on your right. We can't continue to do this without public support. Thank you for supporting this with your button purchase. It's not too late to get one. They're soon to become collector's items. Let's have a big hand for Katie and her mom.
Followed by the color guard. Tell us which post they represent? No, I guess not.
Alexander McCollum was commissioned a Major General for his courage at the Battle of Plattsburgh. On the death of Major General Jacob Brown, for whom Fort Brown had been named in 1814, McCollum succeeded to the office of Commander-in-Chief of the Army. He died in Washington 6 years later at the age of 59. Go Army! The United States Army and National Reserve are excited to participate in the Battle of Plattsburgh Parade and will also be on the U.S. Orbit for tomorrow's Field Day. American Legion, Post 20, the Color Guard.
Okay.
Thank you for your service to our country.
A little late, but the color guard was from post 20 on the Quarry Road.
The Army National Guard. The New York State Army National Guard's local armory is in Morrisonville, Fairgrounds Road. Those marching together are RSP warriors who have recently enlisted and are leaving for training soon.
Thank you for your service.
The United States Air Force. Please welcome Master Sergeant Holt and Technical Sergeant Smith. They have with them 10 future airmen awaiting basic military training.
This is probably not one of them. The Honor Guard.
Now we need a warm welcome and a big round of applause for the North Country Honor Flight.
The North Country Honor
The North
Flight.
Country Honor Flight honors our veterans. World War II and Korean War veterans with their
Driving that
families.
one.
These heroes gave you the freedom you enjoy today.
I think these are all Rod Sherman's Jeeps.
They're escorted by the father of the commemoration ceremony, Kit Booth.
Where's Kit? I didn't see him. Of course, Kit's brother Robert Booth, a POW. North Country Honor Flight.
The General Society of the War of 1812. Maybe. Maybe not. Oh, the honor flight arrives is sailing in the two cars. Here we go, marching with their banner. Our sailors representing the USS Henry Association. DD 762. This post-World War II destroyer was the last of 3 Navy ships, named in honor of Lieutenant Robert Henry, who commanded the brig the Eagle at the Battle of Plattsburgh. By mayoral proclamation, members of the Henry Association are honorary citizens of the city of Plattsburgh. Some of their ship's artifacts are on display in City Hall.
I wonder if they pay honorary
This
taxes.
year they brought a 1952 Dodge truck
There it is.
to represent the kind of vehicle used when this destroyer was serving in the Korean War. The 52 Dodge is all stock and runs as well as the rest of its Henry shipmates. They say she leaks a little, but still stands proud. Notice the 3 flags on the hood: American, Canadian, and British, all at equal height. They're followed by the Civil Air Patrol, The Plattsburgh Civil Air Patrol accepts cadets
Like
aged
Mr.
12 to
Fiddle in
18
charge.
and adults who would like to help build future leaders. And here comes the General Society of the War of 1812. They're having a triennial meeting this weekend in Plattsburgh.
How about that?
Officers and members from across the nation are meeting along with members of the Daughters of the War of 1812. Both organizations are lineage societies, perpetuating the memories and history of the ancestors that participated in the war. I know for a fact that one of their members had a descendant by the name of Lieutenant Peter Gamble, who died aboard the Saratoga 203 years ago tomorrow.
Not a descendant, but a relative.
They are followed by this year's Grand Marshals, Stan and Chris Ransom, being driven by Fred Trim. Stan and Chris Ransom have been an important part of BOP commemoration weekends, almost since the beginning. As co-chairs of the Children's Game Committee, you've likely spotted them in Trinity Park, as they were today, or playing along in the kids' muster, or leading the kids' parades around the perimeter of the park. Stan's lifelong interest in folk music makes him a sought-after performer. Two of the nicest people you ever want to meet. Let's have a very warm round of applause for Chris and Stan Ransom, this year's honorees as Grand Marshals of the parade.
Had a nice chat with both of them before the parade began. They're very much looking forward to it. Hey, the bagpiper Jeep is going a little too fast there.
Ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. Marine Corps.
Our bagpipe, please, pipes and drums.
Oh, come on, you can clap harder than that.
It's not the Marine Corps.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, you're about to be entertained, actually you're being entertained, by the School of the Pipes from Plattsburgh Grand Bagpipe Band, the police pipes and drums of Plattsburgh, under the direction of Pipe Major Dan Warner. The band makes 20 appearances each year, from Ticonderoga to Rouse's Point. Members are volunteers who enjoy playing music and celebrating the heritage of Scotland. They're a teaching band, always looking for new members. See a band member for details. And let's have a big round of applause for the police pipes and drums. St. Andrew's Society joins them.
They brought their monster over, the Loch Ness Monster, come to greet his distant cousin, Champy, the Lake Champlain Monster.
Approaching us now is the Crab Island encampment for wounded soldiers. It goes back to September of 1814. It's a product of the Seton Schools. The Seton Schools are known for a rigorous academic curriculum, small class sizes, and a strong sense of community. Discover the difference a Seton education can make in your child's life. Let's hear it for the Seton Schools and their terrific flight.
Genuine nuns. Gals attending St. Mary's in Champlain. We have MAI, St. John's, and OLVA here in Plattsburgh, but now it's Seton Catholic. Keeping the tradition alive.
The Knights of Columbus, Council number 255. It was founded on August 8, 1897, making it one of the oldest councils in the United States. Celebrating 120 years of community service, the council practices those ideals on which the order rests: charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. The Knights of Columbus, ladies and gentlemen.
Morris Dwyer Council.
The Knights are followed by pre-K through 5th grade students representing the Arthur P. Moma Elementary School, where every day is momentous. Moma's Elementary School.
Beaumont Elementary.
Here come the Battle of Plattsburgh commemoration poster contest winners. As you looked around at everybody's buttons, and it's still not too late to get one, it was Colton Karen, a 4th grader at Beekmantown Elementary School, who is this year's poster contest winner. Colton's poster depicting the American defenders is the design on your button. 2nd place went to Aiden Castle Hackett, and 3rd place to Harry Calkins Rayner. Thank you to all the 4th graders for taking part in the annual poster contest. And thank you to Bill Carl for driving the contest winners. In front of them was the little Ducky Duck. You knew that, I just forgot to tell you.
No relation to Ducky Drake. The quilt show, hey, that's coming up. I gotta put that on my calendar. I know it's coming up here this year. Is it September 30th?
Next up, ladies and gentlemen, the Champlain Valley Quilters Guild. The Champlain Valley Quilters Guild is proud to be part of this event. They support several local charities through their community outreach program. Guild members hope to see you at their show on September 30th to October 1st at the PSU Fieldhouse. Visit their booth right here in Trinity Park for more information. That animated group behind them are the Straw Hatters, a band by the community for the community. They're a group striving to bring back great music to the public.
Originally a marching band out of Rouse's Point many decades ago. No longer out of Rouse's Point.
By the Plattsburgh New Kiwanis Club.
The Kiwanis.
The Plattsburgh New Kiwanis Club is one of the oldest service organizations in the area, with its service focus on children. Their mission statement is Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world, one child and one community at a time. And talking about one child, they are followed by the Girl Scouts of Northeastern New York. The Girl Scouts from Morrisonville and Plattsburgh are future leaders of tomorrow. The organization is open to girls from kindergarten through high school. Please join them in many fun activities. We're happy to welcome back our good friends from the Chateau Ramsay Museum. They're here every Battle of Plattsburgh commemoration. And we're glad to see them marching again in this year's parade.
But they're wearing last year's outfits.
They are followed by a spiffy 1968 Cadillac, owned by the Greater Adirondack Boasting Tour Company. These folks offer weekly lantern-lit guided ghost tours right here in Plattsburgh. Be sure to check them out on Facebook. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, turn your eyes to the clouds, and you'll miss two of the tallest patriots you've ever seen.
Wow.
Making their first appearance in our parade are the Jolly Giant Stilt Walkers. These friendly
Lady
giants
Liberty and
have walked hundreds of miles and hundreds of events and have repeatedly won recognition as best in parade. A warm commemoration weekend welcome for the Jolly Giant Stilt Walkers.
Hey, we got a band coming up. Let's all listen. Fife and drum. Sounds like a former restaurant in Plattsburgh.
The Sailing Masters of 1812 Fife and Drum Corps. An ancient fife and drum corps based in Essex, Connecticut. The Sailing Masters was founded in 1963. The corps uniform is that of the Sailing Master, the third-ranking officer on board a ship of the United States Navy. Sailing Master Rogers Carter of the American sloop the Preble was killed in battle here on September 11, 1814. Did you know that for close to 20 years, Hyundai Motor Corporation has helped in the fight against pediatric cancer? This year, their donations will top $130 million. Let's have a big round of applause for Darby Hyundai's Hope on Rails. $130 million. The Skating Club of the Adirondacks. We're back again this year. The Skating Club of the Adirondacks offers ice skating lessons for individuals of all ages and all abilities. Lesson times and pricing can be obtained via email or on Facebook. They are followed by Boy Scouts of America, Troop 8039. The Boy Scouts of America has been a premier youth development organization since 1910. Plattsburgh's own troop, 8039, serving youth in our community for 84 years, instilling the values of the Scout oath and law.
Our Boy Scouts. Nice to see the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, a couple of elementary schools.
And here come a series of reenactor units, ladies and gentlemen. It's these ladies and gentlemen that make the weekend come alive. We have representation from the 1st Royal Scots. We have representation from Kellogg's Company of New York Volunteers. We have representation from the 15th 15th U.S. Regiment. We have a company of the Toymen. And we probably have some more. We have 2 or 3 lovely ladies as well. They're attached or unattached. Let's hear it for the reenactors.
All right. Some local folks coming too here.
Pretty sharp, don't you think?
Very nice. What a great addition to any activity.
A little juxtaposition in time and technology, they're followed by Eagle Country, 97.5. Okay, here come the bells and whistles. The Royal Marine Association Band of Coburg. The Band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines Association of Coburg, Ontario. Also known as the Concert Band of Coburg. One of the most sought-after bands in the Northeast. In addition to performing in parades, military tattoos, and concerts, its dance orchestra, the Royals, specializes in swing music of the big band era. We're very pleased to welcome them back to Plattsburgh, the Royal Marine Association Band of Coburg.
I'll highlight all the annual parade and activities here.
Come on, you've got a lot of energy left. Let's hear a little bit of it. Thank you. You're going to come out on an overcast afternoon, you want to have a good time. The band is followed by the RMA Cadets. The Royal Marine Association Cadets is a new group, aged 12 to 19. They were formed in 1998. That's a year after the first Valiant Plattsburgh commemoration. They're followed by our good friends from WPTZ. Live, local, late breaking. NBC5 is your local news station. Along with the Valley CW, the local news you need from the source you trust. And as long as their weather team can keep it not raining, they're our friends. Let's hear it for Channel 5.
A two-break day. We get to see Ducky and his son Kenny over there. Tom with his C&I dog helping with the weather.
General McCoon's headquarters during the Battle of Plattsburgh is just around the corner from here. The Benjamin Morris Homestead at 100 Bridge Street. It's represented here by citizens portraying John and Wilson Wars, joined by Eliza Wars. Tour the lobby. See the cannonball shot into the house during the battle. And remember to join Eliza Moore's Fair Walking Tour. Meet across the street from me at the McDonough Monument this afternoon at 5 o'clock for an Eliza Moore's Historic District Walking Tour. It's well worth it. And it requires a Battle of Plattsburgh button. Here come the Quigley Pipes and Drums. The Quigley Highlander Pipes and Drums from Glengarry County, Ontario. They've been playing in parades and festivals for more than a decade. The band is proud of its heritage and embraces its motto, know your past, empower your future. The Quigley Highlander Pipes and Drums. followed by Dr. John Edwards, President of City Plattsburgh, and Lisa Lewis. Let's have a big hand for Dr. Edwards and Lisa Lewis.
There's more coming.
Probably, no, I think it was, I think I had a 4. Yeah, it's a 4. 30.
Next is the Clinton County Coalition to Prevent Suicide. There is help. There is hope. You're not alone. Find the Clinton County Coalition to Prevent Suicide on Facebook. We can all make a difference. The Clinton County Coalition to Prevent Suicide, ladies and gentlemen. The North Country Coalition to Prevent Suicide. And as it turns out, how's this first segue? The North Country runs on Duncan. Here we have Sprinkles the Donut and Cuppy the Coffee. It's that time of year again. Pumpkin is returned. And there's also a new maple pecan flavor to sweeten up your coffee if you're not a fan of pumpkin. We also have Rudy, the A&W Bear. Head on over to A&W for some great fresh food and nice cold root beer. The Clinton County Dairy Princess, Future Farmers of America members, and 4-H'ers of Clinton County are being pulled by the horses of Country Dreams Farm in Plattsburgh.
In Beatontown.
We all know what we eat, and these are the future of what we're going to be eating. The Clinton County Dairy Princess,
Dreams.
Future Farmers of America, and 4-H'ers of Clinton County. Thank you very much. Country Dreams Farm in Plattsburgh.
And from South Plattsburgh.
Here's the South Plattsburgh Fire Department, located just south of the city with their first pumper, a 1959 International, driven by Lieutenant Esposito and followed by some of the members marching.
And I think we're getting to the end here.
And at the end here we have the Classic Car Club, honoring the veterans.
And classic cars just don't seem to want to come out when it's raining out. So we got a few of the country cruisers here. Just a couple.
There's going to be a brief, and that actually brings it to an end, ladies and gentlemen, of that phase. There's now going to be a brief intermission. There'll be a little shifting around, and then we'll move on to the deep retreat. Many of you are familiar with that. It's one of the highlights of the weekend. For those of you that haven't been here before, all the bands will come back and will perform for about an hour. You don't want to miss it. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Unfortunately, we're once again blocked out from viewing the beat retreat. We got straps and tent in front of us, so we'll not be able to get a view we'd like to get. Hopefully we'll be able to get. So there's not much reason for us to stick around, unfortunately. It's the 2017 version of the Battle of Plattsburgh Parade. Congratulations to Sandra Geddes and everybody else who helped put this together. They did another outstanding job, and John Kruger, as always, did a great job there on the microphone. So we're going to bid farewell to the 2017 version of the Battle of Plattsburgh Parade in beautiful downtown Plattsburgh across from McDonough Monument. Thanks for watching and supporting. Viewer-supported local television TV, we think, is worthy of your support, hometown cable, and we need your support. We're not just saying that because we like to hear ourselves say it. We need your support if we're going to be able to keep doing this kind of program. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Saturday afternoon, September 9th, 2017, and our camera is the former Dewey Tavern, now the home of Louis and Rita Bedard in Champlain. We're located across from Northeastern Clinton Central School in the town of Champlain Community Park. That was donated to the town of Champlain in memory of Bob Ben. We're here because it's important that the people in the Northern Tier not forget the part they played, or at least our township played, in the Battle of Plattsburgh events. Around about August 28th, the first scouts were reported coming into the area around the village of Champlain. And their number grew as more and more troops came down from Canada, coming down the Oldleton Road and crossing the border here near Lacole. And they all gathered around here, 14,000 strong, between the British and their allies, including Native Americans and Canadian voltigeurs. In the early part of September, they began their march toward Plattsburgh. And around about that same time, the fleet came down Lake Champlain. That fleet was defeated by McDonough at Plattsburgh. The ground troops had several skirmishes, but they were for the most part victorious. But when the battle on Lake Champlain was lost, the troops knew that their efforts would go for naught, so they headed back north. They camped here until September 25th of 1814. We're about to put up a British flag on this flagpole that sits here in the park. Flagpole donated by the Woodmen of the World, now called Woodman Life, several years ago. We fly this British flag here as a reminder of how things stood here in April 14. Although the War for Independence was long over, the British had invaded, and at this point in time, that British flag would have flown here as they took over this particular area. So it was occupied from roughly August 28th to September 25th in 1814, and it's important that we remember the heritage. On or about the 25th, I will return and replace this with a 15 stripe Star Spangled Banner, which represented the colony, the American nation at that time, a former British colony. The Star Spangled Banner that Francis Scott Key wrote about. That will take place here on or about September 25th when we return to. But in the meantime, for the next 2 weeks, this British flag will fly here. This flagpole sits on ground where British troops are buried. They nursed their troops at the Dewey Tavern following the Battle of Plattsburgh. The ones who passed away at this location were buried here in the Dewey Family Cemetery. So this will conclude our September 9th, 2017 look at this historic site, Dewey Tavern, Dewey Family Cemetery in the town of Champlain, as it pertains to the War of 1812 and the 1814 battle on Lake Champlain and the battle in Plattsburgh.